So what were you going to
So
say?
that actually brings us into the next question, which basically is asking, what are some of the benefits of living the soul-based entrepreneurial lifestyle, both personally, as it pertains to your personal life, and how you've seen it benefit the community at large?
Well, personally, I think it generates a natural sense of ease and good luck and a sense that it's really pretty possible to do anything you can think of.
Mm-hmm.
You may start small and test out the concept, but once you see how the principles work, you can start thinking more ambitiously or more joyfully, or things are not impossible anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very empowering that way. And it's also then a demonstration of how easy things can be, how much you are supported and, of course, loved by being supported. Mm-hmm. And then you feel that that's more the true reality than hatred or abandonment. A lot of people are just living from these awful childhoods where they were abused, abandoned, unloved, unnoticed.
Absolutely.
And they think that's the way life is. But that's not the way we know it is in spirit. And I think we're starting to remember that the way it actually functions in spirit, where everything is interconnected, mutually supportive, loving, and caring, and uplifting and evolutionary, that is the way it is in the physical world now. It's coming more and more and more to be that way. And so the systems we operate in are changing to be more that way. Right now, because of profit motive and corporate stuff, are downsizing and outsourcing and cutting out jobs, and they don't care about people. The corporations are the people, and they're trying to preserve themselves out of ego. And what is it they say? A lot of the corporate mentality is the psychopath mentality. And that just isn't going to work, because it's against the unity of what's coming. You can't be isolated and think it's only about you, and that you have to do it all, and that it's sacrificial. And when you think that and you feel separated, then the ego comes in and says, well, I have to control things then, or I have to be the boss, or I have to be the strong one, and everybody will obey me. And then I'll have agreement, which is a misinterpretation of love. People who don't really know what love is, they think agreement is love.
Right.
Right. And so that's all shifting. And so on the personal side, we're learning that we deserve a lot more, that it's natural for us, that there's plenty of love, that we don't need to get love because we already are love, and that love is also conscious. In some ways, the more loving you are, the more open you are to wisdom and knowledge. The more separate you are, the less you're open to it, and you have to work hard to get it and keep it. But when you're open, it's all there in you all the time, and you can have anything you want. It's like, wow, how relaxing, And so it's changing the way we feel as individuals, and then it's changing the way we interact in relationships, and then in groups, small groups, And then we're starting to see that you don't give up your individuality and your uniqueness, but we're all made of the same stuff coming through different filters. So you see the commonalities, and you see the perfect fit of all the puzzle pieces. And then you see that different things, if I'm interested in saving the environment, and I let that be known and put it in my field of energy, other people who are interested in the same thing can find me. And they can come in, we can share a field of interest in the environment and work together, put our minds together, put our hearts together. And so culturally then it starts to affect probably laws, right? Or it's going to change the way politics operates. And I think we'll get more into a crowdsourced, collective way of doing things. And yet the individual will still be highly valued. It's not either or.
Right.
So, it's hard to describe the whole vision of it, but to me it just seems like it's going to be so much more effortless and relaxing that we can just assume that we're going to be supported. So, like a child who's happy, they just play and laugh and they create, and there's, it just feeds the creativity. We don't need difficulty in order to be excellent.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that
I love
answers
that.
your
No, yeah, that's
question
great.
or
It
not.
does, because it really speaks to the way that it's going to assist the collective in moving as we as individuals move into that space.
Right. It'll be,
So,
microcosm and macrocosm. What happens at the individual level will happen in a parallel way in a more collective groups.
especially as the numbers start to get larger.
Yes. And that means it'll
Now,
happen faster also.
oh, right. Yeah, it vibrates at a higher frequency.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, your background was, I know you touched on having been done some interior design work and so forth. So I don't know if you ever really worked a traditional job, but what were the most significant driving factors that possessed you to become an entrepreneur? Whether, stuff that was coming internally, through like your intuition, and externally. What were the things that drove you to, working for yourself?
Yeah. Of course, I did have regular jobs for quite a while, and I think what happened was that, and this was before I knew anything about spirituality, but I still had a feeling of rebellion and restlessness, that there was a dimension lacking. It was too slow, it was too dense. The people weren't visionary enough, but there was like a lack of idealism, and I don't know how to say that I knew what that idealism should be looking at, but I just felt the limiting nature of the one-dimensional way that everybody was thinking. And I wanted to think about bigger ideas. I wanted also then to explore, I guess it came to me first by thinking about like psychic discoveries behind the Iron Curtain, and the books that were available early on about mysteries. And I thought, this has to be important, and then as I trained as an artist and designer, do a logo for someone, you have to look at their business and their personality and say what would symbolize them. And that's an intuitive process to get the right typeface or, image or logo or brochure. That was a real process of reading somebody. So there was, it evolved, but I think at some point I just thought I could do this myself. Why not? I don't have to have a lot to live on. In the beginning, I started in a humble way and said, it's okay, but I can try it. I think this would be interesting. So I didn't have any fear. And I looked at one of my other teachers and saw that, she was doing X number of classes a week with certain number of students and certain number of private consultations. And I figured out the money that she was making. I said, I could live on that. I can do that. Now, why I thought I could, I don't know, but I thought I could. So off I went, and things just happened. And then I would think the next thing, I could probably do that. So maybe it's just an attitude that out of curiosity, but also thinking, I can learn. This is something that's doable. I always think, where there was a will, there was a way. That was the old thought, of now I don't believe so much in willpower, but I believe in thinking that things are possible.
And do you believe that, when you are headed in the right direction and you are moving from that intuitive or soul space, that things do tend to work out? And, for the stuff that we're struggling against or it's not really working, usually that's just the universe's gentle way of saying, hey, move in this direction.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's quite noticeable when you choose something that really feels on purpose. Like I had been a corporate art director, and when people would say, what do you do? And I'd say, I'm a graphic designer, I would always feel like I was telling a lie. It was weird. And then as soon as I started doing the metaphysics and started teaching and doing readings, people would say, what do you do? And I'd say, well, I didn't know how to describe it, but I would say I'm doing counseling and this and that, and then I would feel so relaxed. Then what happened was there were synchronicities, coincidences of people that I needed to meet would just show up, and offers came and money came, and it grew without much effort.
Right.
I would think of what I thought I would, like I'd put out an ad in the magazines or to try to get clients, and I would get no clients from the ad, but I would get clients from all other directions. And I realized it was kind of like I just needed to put my desire into the world and say what I'd like, and then it was answered. So the ad was like a ceremony that made it official. I learned a lot about how energy works. If I wanted clients, I would get them. If I started thinking I was overwhelmed, they would all stop calling. And then if I thought I was interested again, they'd call again. So it's sort of like you learn to overcome fear. I think is one of the biggest things for working for yourself. And when you're blocked, and if something doesn't work, I don't take it personally. I think, oh, this is interesting. Okay, where might I be missing a vital piece of information? Do I need to rest? Do I need to change gears? Am I wanting to do something else? Is it the astrology cycles that are going on right now? And look for the underlying inner energy blueprints of what was causing that. And then let it be or change the way I was thinking, and then things would shift again. Maybe I was using too much willpower where it didn't need to be used. Maybe I was my timing was off. Maybe I was missing a vital piece of information that needed another week or two before it dropped in my lap. Yeah, so there's always, I think, if you work with the process and let it educate you, you get good at it.
Well, that kind of leads us into the next question, which is, what advice can you give regarding how to make the leap? And I know you and I have talked about this in our appointments, but just in general, to the general populace, making that leap from traditional employment to the sustainable small business, whether they plan to expand later or not.
Yeah, okay. I think it's important to understand, first of all, that the left brain would like it all to be ironed out and flattened and firm and safe, but that's not always the way the process happens. First of all, you need to get in touch with what really gives you joy and what do the true motives that are coming in you now, what are they all about? And see if you can write about them or bring them up to the surface of your conscious mind. Like, what do you always like to talk about? What do you never get tired of doing? And then look at combining, like what are various interests you have? What would you like to learn more about? So I'm a big advocate of making lists like that to flush up to the surface hidden ideas. Where would you like to visit? What cultures do you like? What ideas are fascinating to you? Then it's like take one from column A, one from column B, and one from column C and combine a few and say, okay, if I had these kinds of activities or tasks that I love to do in one job, what might that job look like? And play in your imagination first. And then if you change the variables, what would it look like if I did these three things? Maybe I'd run a nursery for plants. Maybe if I did this, I would have a television show. Maybe if I did this, I would, write books. So you get kind of archetypal patterns that fit for you. And you don't have to limit yourself to just one, but you do have to have a starting point. Which one do I want to do first? That would be fun for a little while. And then what one might like to come after that. Have a loose plan, not a locked down, 5-year plan. Think of a sequencing of how could I start a trickle of this pattern going and charge for it, make some money from it. Even if it's a little bit, it needs to be an exchange. Because some people are very loath to charge money for these new things. But I think it's important that people have to give something to receive something. So play with that, experiment. Kind of go easy on yourself in the early stages of the buildup, because it does take several years to get a new business going, even if it were a traditional business. You have the business plan and the marketing and the getting the customers and getting the testimonials and things like that, a track record. So you have to be a little bit patient. I guess it just has to meet those criteria I was speaking about earlier, that is this something that I could feel entertained by, or is it a should? And then at periods, after you've done like stage 1, check in again and say, am I still really enjoying this? Or is there another element that might want to be added now? I want to complicate this a little bit, or raise the energy on it, or the vision wants to expand. So that's the way I think about it.